Alright, so if you remember, when we multiply by powers of 10, all we're doing is shifting the numbers to the left or to the right, depending on if we're multiplying or dividing. So this one right here is 5 21/100ths times 100. So the multiplication symbol lets me know my number is going to be getting bigger, which means I'm going to be moving it to the left on the number line. And then the 100 tells me I'm going to need to move it 2 place values over. So I start by writing my number line. Doesn't matter how many lines you put, just put some lines down. Draw your decimal, and then put in the number you started with. So 5.21. This is the same number as this. Now is when we actually move it. So again, we said we're multiplying, so that means it's going to go to the left, and it's going to go to the left 2 times. So start with your 5 and count over 1, 2. That's where your 5 goes. Start with your 2, 1, 2. This is where your 2 goes. And lastly, your 1, 1, 2. The decimal didn't move, which means it's right here. But because there's nothing behind the decimal, we can just write our answer as 521. Now, sometimes you will see the equations written out like this. 10 to the second power is the same thing as 10 times 10, which 10 to the second power is the same thing as 10 times 10, which is the same thing as 1,000. I'm sorry, as 100. So, even when it's written like this, you still know how many times to move it, because the exponent this time tells you how many times to move it instead of the zeros. So we're still moving it 2 times. And we're going to start with our original number. If there's no decimal in the number, then you know the decimal is really invisible behind it. So the number goes on the number line just like this. This time we're dividing, which means we're going to go the opposite direction because our number is going to get smaller. So we're going to move to the right this time. And again, we're moving it 2 times. So I'm going to start with my 3 and count backwards 2. 1, 2. My 3 is going to land right here. However, we can't leave this spot empty, so that's going to be filled with the 0. And our answer is 300ths, written just like this. So 3 divided by 10 to the second power is 300ths. Alright, moving on to the next one. We have 42 3/10 times 10. So I'm drawing my number lines out, putting my decimal in, writing my original number, which is 42.3. Multiplication means we're going to move it this direction, left, because we're going to get bigger. And think about how many times we're going to move it. If it's a 10, we're only going to move it 1 place value. So just 1 jump over. Start with your 4. It's going to jump 1, or right here. The 2 is going to jump 1 up. It's right here. The 3 is going to jump 1 up. There's our answer. The decimal hasn't moved. Answer is 423. Let's do one last one. Let's do 1300ths divided by 100. Okay. Draw your number line. Place your decimal. Put the number you have on there, so it's decimal 13 right here. So pay attention, we're dividing, so we're going to get smaller, and we're going to move it 2 spots because there's 2 zeros, so we'll move this number back 2 spots. Now I can see already I only have 1 spot behind it, so I'm just going to draw another line in. And I'm going to count my 3 over 2 spots. 1, 2, it's going to land right here. I'm going to count my 1 over 2 spots. 1, 2, it's going to land right here. And then, of course, my decimal hasn't moved, which means I have 2 empty spots that I'm going to fill with zeros. And there's my number. It's really, really tiny. This is decimal 0013. Alrighty. So if you still need help, I recommend watching this over again and then trying a few on your own.